Hey, Peyton, nice to see you on this beautiful day. This time with a quote by Alan Watts, where he says, "The action of non-action, or wu wei, or wei wu wei, is the purest form of action, because it is nature's way." There's another quote from Lao Tzu. Do you have it?
Yeah, he says, achieve results but never glory in them. Achieve results but never boast. And he also says, do your work and then step back, the only path to serenity. And this thought of Wei Wu Wei is a really powerful concept or thing for us to keep in mind or posture for us to bring as an intention toward our way of being in the world. And especially our way of being in matters that we are tempted to try to control everything, to try to manipulate reality and bend it exactly according to how we think it should be. And what these quotes are pointing to, in my view, is a balance that we can obtain within our mind or a relationship that we can bring toward the ups and downs and movement toward and away from things that we think that we want or toward and away from things that we think that we don't want within our life and within our experience. And this way wu way, or the doing, not doing, or doing your work and step back, or whatever, is something that is a balance ultimately for us to find, where we are out here, we have talents, we have gifts, we have intentions, things that we believe that will be beneficial for ourselves and others, and some concept of a path before us and that we would like to orient ourselves toward. And all of those things are good. All of those things are useful and can benefit ourselves and others and can be aligned with our values and can be harmonious and compatible with a harmonious way of being. But there is a middle ground here between apathy and a posture that tries to control everything, a posture that can't accept things going on outside of our control, that is fundamentally opposed to and in constant disagreement with some pieces of reality, or even when it's in agreement with reality, something that is solidifying around attachments to certain things, including attachments to things playing out in a way that they haven't played out yet, in a way that we think that they should play out. And this way wu way is a balance that we can find, the doing of not doing, or doing our work and then stepping back, or detaching ourselves, detaching our identity from the immediate results and immediate momentum of what we're up to. This balance can ultimately enable us to flow instead of being rigid. It can enable us to respond with intuition, respond with flexibility to what we're up to and what is before us during the inevitable ups and downs and surprises of the way that things are going. And that doing of not doing also points to a capacity to not get in our own way with things so much. If you really want to attract a promising employee and you interview them again, and then you're texting them every single day 4 times, are you going to join? Are you going to join? Are you going to join? I want this. And you're looking so attached, desperate, cravey about this person that you want to bring on your team, they're probably going to be turned off by that. Or same if it's someone you want to date, or same if it's something that you want to accomplish, or a customer, or whatever. We can overdo it, and by trying to control and being uncomfortable or unable to sit with the discomfort of uncertainty, we oftentimes can undermine ourselves, and we can see this in other people as well as in our past. And Wei Wu Wei ultimately can yield a flexibility that can give us a power to flow through the events and challenges in our life. How do you think about Wei Wu Wei and the benefits of the doing and not doing?
Well, awesome thought of flowing through without being attached. And I think so as well. If you want to keep a butterfly which landed on your finger and want to look at it, you better not grab it, because then it was the last time you see the beauty of the butterfly, because you crushed it. If you want to if you want to hold on it too tightly with a forceful grip, it will likely be the outcome that you will lose it. And therefore, not acting and just looking at it, not reacting, provides a space where the things can unfold their own beauty. And therefore, you don't lose them because you don't act your desire. And pardon me, the same is with taste. Um, if you practice not acting, then you will find that there's so much more to find in the space which opens up, more than your initial reaction. And you will also see the second order consequences and the higher order consequences of how an action would actually steer up the pot and change the system and change the whole trajectory of how events even potentially can unfold. So if there's a guy coming over you and throws an insult to your face and you react instantly and punch his nose or whatever, this has different consequences and side effects than just not being attached to your identity of whatever has been insulted of you, but not reacting and leaving up the room of endless possibilities, which more likely are very positive than you having to go into court and defending your childish behavior then. So the action of not acting is something very active because sometimes we have to hold ourselves back from our initial reaction because our initial reaction is sometimes not the best thing we could do. So the wise thing to do, like Lao Tse also preaches very often throughout his Tao Te Ching, is to not react, to not try to heal something which can heal by itself, and to not force our ideals onto complex situations, to not force our solutions to try to fix something up and thereby making it worse sometimes. It's like you can repair something so well that it breaks. If you have been treated too much, you are overtreated, and therefore your body disintegrates as well. More people die by overdoses of medication than by leaving alone and recovering from their cold. And this is the wisdom in not putting in too much. And it's also leaving things out. What do you think about that?
It's so broadly applicable to our life. It's so applicable to the path that we're on because inevitably and factually, regardless of our posture toward it, things do play out outside of our control. We really cannot control the course of events. Even if we do everything that's within our control, things will surprise us, things will overwhelm us, things will overpower us, things will come out of nowhere. Everything we do can be undermined by shifts that are completely broad based and macro or even micro and have to do with the lives of the immediate people around us at this happenstance moment, with the roll of the dice that the universe brings to the course of events on small and large scales every single day. And so all spiritual traditions or all major spiritual traditions are pointing to this truth that we are just human beings. We are just an individual human being, a small, tiny creature that's walking around on this rock that's flying through space. And so the traditions of the East will often point to this truth by saying things like acceptance, letting go, stepping back, detaching, and having this posture of experience will flow. And if I try to hold on to it, I'm just going to get thrashed around. I'm going to be rigid, and shit is going to hurt and be turbulent. And then the traditions of the West, or Judeo Christian or monotheistic traditions, Islam included, talk a lot about surrender and surrendering to the way that things are and humbling ourselves to know that we are not in control and having trust and faith in the way that things will play out, as opposed to trying to lean on our own strength and do everything with our own power. And the reason for all of these things is because ultimately resistance is futile to reality. Reality is going to play out, and we can do some things within our lives, and there are some things our own action, our own mind is ultimately within our control to an extent. But the outside world is going to play out as it does. And the Stoics also talk about this. Marcus Aurelius, I have a quote on my wall: "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." And there's a parable that I frequently think about along this. It's Eastern. I forget, maybe Zen or something like that. And it's about this man in the village, and a beautiful giant wild horse comes in and gallops right into a stable and is already tamed for some reason, and it's the most beautiful horse in the town, and it's a really valuable possession for this man. And his friends come up to him and say, "Wow, how lucky you are, how amazing it is, how good that this thing happened to you." And he says, "Perhaps." And then the next day his son goes out on a ride on this horse, rides around, the horse bucks him off, and his son breaks his leg and falls to the ground. Everybody's, "Oh, how horrible it is. Oh, how terrible that this thing happens to you. This is so bad." He goes, "Perhaps." And then the next day, the government comes in to conscript every able-bodied young man for the war that's going on, that the country is completely outnumbered and losing. And they come to the door, they knock, and they see the son has his broken leg, and he can't join the army. And everybody's, "Oh, what good fortune! Your son is saved and spared this horrible war." So, perhaps. And it goes on and on like this, where the things that seem bad tend to lead to some positive event that happens next, and the positive leads to some negative thing that happens next. And we can see how in our own lives this is played out in the same way. When I got rejected from all four of my favorite colleges on the same day, I was fucking bummed when I was 18. I was so upset. I felt screwed over. I was pissed off. I felt like I was kept out of something that I deserved. I felt wrong. I felt unjust. I felt indignant. I was so mad, and I thought that it was really objectively bad. I thought that it was really objectively wrong, and it should have been some other way than how it actually was. But in reality, that was the best thing and absolutely necessary for my growth and development, and put me on a far greater path of learning, development, freedom, and prosperity and abundance than I ever would have accessed had I actually gotten what I wanted in that moment. And the same thing has played out with me several different times where I had a door closed in my face, and I was so upset about this door closed in my face. And I really wanted to do everything I could to control and force reality to conform to my wishes, to force reality to be how I think it should be in this moment, or to be good how I define it. And whenever I'm doing this, I'm resisting reality. I'm resisting the way that things are. And I'm blinding myself to the incredible gift that many of these seemingly bad events, or seeming rejections, or seeming shut doors, how amazingly um benevolent these events have played out to be in my life. And same with many of the good things that I've gotten, that I really wanted what I got. And then lo and behold, 6 months later, I'm getting my fucking ass kicked, and I'm lamenting the day that I ever got involved in this. And I'm so upset, and now it feels bad. It feels good. It feels bad. It feels good. It feels bad. And ultimately, reality is exactly how it is. And I'm the one from the outside putting this label over it in my own awareness, labeling it in a certain way and causing myself to be rigid toward the way that things play out, instead of fully flowing and fully being at peace with reality on reality's terms, being in loving agreement with the way that things actually are, so that I can flow with it, so that I can feel peace and harmony along the way, and so that I can be the best person that I can be in the context, in the reality that I'm actually in, the only one that I'm actually in, the one that is right here, the one that is fated to be exactly as it is in this moment, because it's already arrived, because it's already here. It literally, if something is here, if something has happened in the past, then in fact, in reality, it cannot be any other way, because it is the present. The present is always non negotiable. In this way wu way, that doing my work and stepping back is, for me, as somebody who's very tempted to try to control everything, who's very tempted to try to manipulate and force things to be how I want, to get fixated on a vision that I have for how things will play out, and then really try to hold on to it, really try to grip it, really try to force it, try to think through everything in the future so I can absolutely control and make sure there's no doubt and no contingencies and no uncertainty. this natural response that I have toward the uncertainty of unfolding, combined with the attractive vision that I may have for the future playing out in this way or that way, it is a temptation that can oftentimes pull me out of balance and out of a wise and grounded and centered way of being that ultimately points back to an acceptance and a full embrace of the fact that I am not in control. I need to have faith. I need to accept. I need to let go. I need to step back and I need to surrender if I want to be the best version of myself that I can be, if I want to enjoy and flow with things rather than getting thrown around by them. And this way wu way at first sounds like sloth or laziness or whatever, maybe a relaxation of virtue of conscientiousness or industriousness. But the truth is, we can still be just as energetic toward our work, just as conscious, just as diligent, just as disciplined, just as motivated, whatever, while we can prevent ourselves from cutting our legs out from under us by being absolutely thrashed about, getting our butt kicked, and being unable to respond with the energy, the groundedness, the wisdom, the acceptance, and the presence that a lot of these situations require, especially when things are not going our way on the immediate term. What do you think about these balances and this pushing and the way that it enables us or disempowers us to flow through our life?
It definitely enables us, and this is a wonderful thought, to accept reality as it is, to not resist it, and also not acting upon something that comes along your way at first has a great potential in avoiding downsides. This is probably the best filter you can apply to avoid downsides. And probably that's why it's so wise, because as Murphy's Law states, whatever can happen will happen. There's a room full of possibilities, and you can also prepare for the bad possibilities to happen, and therefore be more serene about it, and therefore have have a strategy prepared for when you encounter that bad thing to happen, what you can do or not do, and therefore gives you much more clarity, much more peace in a sense, and therefore you can circumvent or navigate around bad challenges which come along your way, but you can anticipate them. So in a sense, it's like playing with the potentialities of your future. And not acting or wei wu wei gives you the space in which you can explore it in a much calmer and more grounded way, so that you can make much better judgment of how you eventually should act. So, yeah, sometimes it can seem like this is a lack of industriousness, but in a second order consequence, it is very effective in its actions, because you can have the possibility to act on a trajectory, you act a certain way, you work on a certain path. But if you gain more efficiency in your work on that certain path, but the path ultimately reaches the wrong direction, you have wasted your energy, you have wasted your time. But when you don't act, even if it seems like you lose time or energy, and think about where you really want to go, and then act in a more strategic sense, this is an effective action, because it's nothing more wasteful than to make things more efficient that should never have been done at all in the first place. And this is also something that it can help with this bias towards non-action. So I love that there is a dichotomy, a bias towards action. When you see the opportunity, for sure, go for it. Act upon it. 3 seconds and go. Take a breath and go. But also, if something comes along your way, you're not sure about it, how to react, and you have a very strong initial angry reaction, whatever, don't act. Don't get steered up. So you have a much clearer head and a much more clear head, and you can decide with much better judgment. Also, this giving space in terms of practicing not to act, just sit at one spot, just meditate, or just relax in nature. This gives the whole experience a different quality as well, where you can see more things in the minute details. You can experience more beauty in the things that are already there. You can love, you can learn to love how you breathe because it is such an amazing thing that happens all the time without your consciously being complicit in it. That air enters your body and a whole chain of reactions inside your body make it work so that you can still be alive. How amazing is that? You can enter a much deeper level of appreciation if you just don't act on something, if you just don't act upon your first thought to do something, if you just take it in, if you just go into the world and taste a food without spices so that you can taste the minute and finesse details of the differences of the structure and so on, and take in every sense that you have. And I personally can prove that this kind of experience has a much higher quality. When I was in the 10-day retreat in Thailand in Wat Suan Mok, we only ate unspiced vegetables and some kind of rice. And I can say this was the best food I ever tasted because I really tasted it without nothing. I just focused on it. I just was there and did nothing else. This is also the quality which you can raise to a next level if you practice Wei Wu Wei, if you practice not acting. So, Peyton, do you have any closing thoughts on that one?
This is a topic that is very useful for me to reflect on, especially at a phase in my life with a lot of movement and excitement about this and that, and uncertainty about how things will unfold, and at a point where it is impossible for me to plan out every single detail of the next month or the next quarter as I'm working on some entrepreneurship things. So this way and flowing, accepting and being fully here, doing what I'm doing, and a capacity to trust and accept the inherent dynamism, uncertainty, and volatility of reality is a superpower that I hope to cultivate and a peace within that I hope to retain a connection with during the course of events. So very relevant for me. I'm very grateful for this conversation, and I'm definitely hoping
Likewise.
to integrate this into my way of being more and more consistently as I'm walking this path right now. And I really appreciate your reminders here, man. Great talking to you.
Great talking to you, man. May we widen the space to have clearer and better judgment. Thanks for the conversation, man. See you next week.
Likewise. See you next week, brother.